So in 2020, it was around the time of the pandemic in May specifically. I got very sick. Um, I ended up in the hospital in the ICU for about 2 months, and in that time, I lost all of my physical strength, and it was on top of already having my disability that already causes weakness of my muscles. So I was very bad off in the hospital and needed lots of therapy there, and then afterwards when I got home. And overall it was a very difficult situation for me. um, I finally did get home around mid-July of 2020 and had to recover. But during that time, I didn't do any art until later on when I got some of my strength back, fortunately. But it was a very difficult time for me. I felt when I was in the hospital, I felt like I had lost everything, and I'll admit that I cried, and I felt like I had lost so much of myself and of my abilities as a person, and I wasn't sure if I would ever get better, or get back to having my physical strength that I do have. So it was truly a test of me as a person, and like I said, I did have moments when I felt very bad for myself, felt very bad for my situation and the state I was in. I do realize that there were people then and now that have been in the hospital for a lot longer and were a lot worse off than I was, and in some cases, many cases, didn't make it. So in a way, I am grateful that it wasn't any worse for me than it was. But still, for me, it was the worst sickness that I had ever had, and being away from home and away from, family and friends for all that time was hard. And by the end of my 2 months in the hospital, I had it, being there, and I was bored, and I was sick of being at the hospital, and I just wanted to come home and get back to my life. Like I said, when I got home, I didn't immediately get back to drawing or to my art. I finally got my strength back enough that I got to doing some simple drawings. If you go back in my YouTube history, you can see some of the drawings from 2020. They were okay. They weren't anything amazing. I did one of the baby Yoda. I did one of some, like a little Utah scene with rocks and the desert and a mountain lion. So I did a little bit. But eventually this was going into 2021. I got going again. I got my health back, and I started drawing again, and that's when my art developed even more. I've been going on into 2021, entering 2022, around the spring, first half of the year of 2022 was when my art really took off, in my opinion, on another level. I got into using Posca markers and combining them with acrylic paint, and that's when I kind of found my style and was able to really see my art as far as my ability reach another level. And then you go on into 2023, and I started drawing, teaching on art school, and by then I was drawing every day with my students online, and so that gave me great practice and great mileage as far as drawing. But 2020 for me was a really rough year. Before that, in about maybe January of 2021, and in those months prior, that after I had been doing some experimenting with hydro dipping, I made hydro dipping phone cases and light switch covers. Maybe I'll talk about that in another video. I am grateful for the many nurses I had. They had to deal with me when I had some unpleasant days and I wasn't any fun to be around. But there were people that cared and that were good nurses and good to me and doctors that helped me out, and there were some really good people. We made friends, acquaintances with them, and since I was there for so long in the same area or room of the hospital, they got to know me and would say to one another through their little radios, "Hey, I'm in Andy's room," and so they all kind of knew who I was. And also my mom took my art or some of my paintings or copies of my paintings up to the hospital to have it in my room to show the share with the nurses my skills, because I was so bad off in my health that they didn't really know who I was or what I was able to do. So that was a good thing. They got to see my art. And then I did actually sell a number of note cards of my art, and I wasn't making stickers at the time, but they did buy some prints of my drawings and note cards. So that was cool to be able to, even though I was at the hospital, I was able to sell a few things, you know. How many people can say they've done that in a difficult situation, be selling art? It's continued to affect me in positive and negative ways. I kind of view that year and that sickness as a moment in my life that really has had a big impact in my life now, and my health, and even my abilities in different ways. So it still affects me in some positive and negative ways, even to today. So yeah, that's what I had to share today. Hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.